a Roman fortlet up on that hill, perhaps you can see, I don't know whether you can or not, on that bank over the other side. And there's a Roman road that goes, heads across the Mendips all the way, I don't know whether you saw my video of about the Fossway and the Bronze Age cemetery, and the Ridgeway and Marksbury, which I shall put a link in up there. And you can't prove that there is a connection. There is a connection between the Romans placing their roads and the Bronze Age barrows, because they were citing their trigonometry, their layout of the roads. They were citing them along Bronze Age barrows. You can see they were. Now, it doesn't mean that they were going deliberately to them to visit them. They didn't want their roads to connect Bronze Age barrows. They were just using them as sight lines to know, as navigation, to know where they were. But it goes in a direct straight line up to the fortlet, which is just over here. That fortlet protected the Roman lead mines here. They were brutal places and dangerous, poisonous and all the rest of it. Still are poisonous today. I'm not going to go eating any of the herbs I saw earlier on. This place is absolutely contaminated with lead. But there is a settlement just across the way, which we shall visit in a second. And beyond that there was an amphitheatre, so they actually made an amphitheatre to entertain people. Which does tend to suggest that it wasn't necessarily slavery. Not everybody was a slave. You wouldn't entertain slaves with lavish entertainments. But anyway, and after that we're going to go have a look up on the, I think it's Blackdown, and then back down to see a henge monument, if we can get that far. These are 19th century, they're basically like flues. So they're built on I was just talking to a guy, one of the landowners, and they're on a slight slope. And you put the lead in on one end in sand, and it's facing towards the southwest to get the southwesterly prevailing wind. And you start melting, and the lead will run down these channels that you can see here. Hopefully you can see them. And that, it's not my period, the 19th century, but it shows continuity that's still being done in the 19th century, but no more. But this was the last gasp. These guys, they did there weren't any of the rich pickings left. It was just lots and lots of junk and slag and sand and so on. But what they did was that they came up with a cunning plan that that allowed them to really eke out the best. You know, not just eke to get the best, as much as they can out of what was lying about. So they got a really good deal. I think their rent was low or whatever, so they maximised. They worked really hard to get all the waste and squeeze out the last of the lead, and they enriched themselves. So how does that help our argument about continuity, seeking that golden line between the ancient past and the present day? Well, if people have come here to exploit lead since, let's say, 50 BC onwards, that helps us understand that knowledge was passed down in some sense, even if it was an exploitative, in two senses, exploitative of the land, but exploitative in the sense that the Romans came along and took it off the Iron Age people, took it off the British. And even though that is, you know, a form of robbery, it's still, they would have known. How did they know that there was lead here to come and get? And the reason they knew it was because of international you know, Europe-wide networks of trade. So even in the Iron Age. So the argument is progressing a little, not just about continuity of life, continuity of culture, in some sense from the Iron Age in Britain, but also a wider network of culture across Western Europe. Behelden las vleugen dan fuglas. I've been looking at a load of, after getting all a bit Wagner-esque recently, I've been looking at the Old English relationship with nature and fluffy things like that. Fuglas habath nest. Fire fugel verdrum hagne. Say is phoenix hartath.